Hey, what's going on? So I wanted to make a video for Kings of Pain fans, people that follow my channel, the 2 or 3 people that like to send me hate mail. Hopefully I have a pretty interesting video for you today. We're going to compare season 1 versus season 2 of Kings of Pain in terms of which was harder on Adam and I overall. And this will be mostly through my perspective because I think Adam's going to do his own video and talk about his experiences, season 1 versus season 2. Well, I'll compare the 2 seasons in general first, and then we'll go ahead and start breaking it down by category. And I think some of you will really like this video. It's going to be pretty in-depth, so it'll be probably a multi-part series. I'm serious about it. I've got my Kings of Pain hat on here. And someone's going to ask, this is Condor, it's a Condor snapback in multicam black. Multicam black, probably not the most practical camouflage pattern, but it looks kind of cool, so a lot of people like it. I get a lot of questions about this hat, but I don't think they make it anymore, so sorry about that. So just diving into this, so Adam and I, we kind of don't agree on which season was worse, season 1 or season 2, but the reason we don't, Adam says by far, hands down, season 2 was the worst season. Like, it's not even close. For me, well, I have to say season 1 because of the python bite and having to have surgery and permanent damage. I'm still dealing with that today. But I think what would be way more interesting to put these head to head. Like, we get the python thing. Like, that's just, it's like a freak accident almost, like, that we put ourselves into. So let's take off the most painful animal from season 1, the most catastrophic, which was the python. And let's take off the most painful animal from season 2, which ranked even higher than the python, which was the beaded lizard. And we'll just take those off the board. And then if we compare season 1 to season 2, holy crap dongle. Like, season 2 was so awful. And well, let's just get into why. First off, season 1 was fun. We went to Bali, we went to South Africa, we went to Baja California in Mexico, and went to the Amazon in Bolivia. And I had never been there. Adam had never been there. It was just cool. Like, you're going to film a scene or something. There's like pink river dolphins and freshwater stingrays and 2 species of caiman. I saw an aquatic coral snake behind the producer's house. I mean, there's just life everywhere. Howler monkeys, a couple species, I think. Capuchin monkeys, spider monkeys. I mean, it was a little paradise. Season 2, we are up in the Sierra Pelona Mountains, which means like bald mountains. So they're not pretty. Just north of Los Angeles. In the winter. And while Southern California does have mild weather, like, we're talking some days we get out there and like, all right, we're going to do an unboxing scene on this table, and there's a ½ inch of ice on it. So producers would fire up a generator and then sit there with hair dryers just to, get this table warm enough where we can put animals on it for a couple minutes, shoot the scene, get the animals back in with hand warmers, just so we didn't endanger the animals. It was hell. Another thing, season 1, we had 3 weeks of filming to film 2 episodes, and then we have a week off. So we do 2 episodes in 1 month. Whereas season 2, we did an episode every month. We did have a 2-week Christmas break, but other than that, we filmed 3 weeks, had 2 weeks off, and then we did 7 weeks nonstop. Bam, 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 bam. And you could feel it in our bodies, like we're just getting more and more and more run down. And on top of that, while we did some crazy animals in season 1, the vast majority of them, no matter how painful they were, didn't drastically affect us the next day. With a couple of exceptions, and we'll get into that in the series, almost always we would have a day off the day after the bite, and we wouldn't be feeling any real symptoms the next day. So we actually get to enjoy a day off somewhere in Bali or Mexico or Bolivia or South Africa, going on game drives. And we were fine, and we were sleeping fine. Season 2, we would just go home, and I would say dang near half of the animals affected us in some way beyond that first day. A lot of times we were in so much pain we couldn't sleep till much later. Several of them a lot of them actually had itchiness to the point where we couldn't sleep. And that was a big factor in over time, us just getting worse and worse and worse physically, mentally, emotionally, just because we weren't recovering like we normally did. A lot of them had swelling, cramps, skin sensitivity, all kinds of stuff that lasted days. One of them actually had pain that lasted days that was just from the venom, not from swelling or cramps or anything. So it was very, very different from season one. And poor Adam, he had to stay here because of COVID restrictions, so he couldn't go home for Christmas. We had 2 weeks off, and it rained the entire time. It was just a completely different experience. Season one, we did a lot of iconic animals, very iconic, like piranha, giant lizard, just things that you would think about when you want to see, oh, we got to try this animal or that animal. Season 2, we kind of delved into more controversial things, like some people say this animal is venomous, some people say it's not. Just trying to solve little mini mysteries. Like one fish we didn't know which spines were venomous. A lot of people didn't know the fish was venomous at all. And even among animal experts, they're like, oh, I thought it was the pectoral spines. And other people are like, no, it's the pelvic or the anal spines. So we were getting a lot of conflicting information. So we kind of delved into that. Definitely venom-wise, season 2 had more dangerous animals as well. We had animals that, while very unlikely for us to have that type of reaction, these are animals that kill people other than by allergic reaction, actually kill people with a toxic reaction. So we definitely pushed it further in season 2. We got to do the electric eel, which season 1 they said no, is too dangerous. So season 2 was not only pushing things harder, stepping more into like the unknown territory, but we also had a couple surprises, and it just wasn't as fun. It was high paced. It went from being like season 1, one of the most fun things I've ever done, to season 2 being one of the hardest things I've ever done. So that's that. Season 2, awful. Season 1, pretty dang fun. But I want to go ahead and delve into a few different animals to compare, like by category. And this all started because of Justin Schmidt, who wrote the book, The Sting of the Wild. Justin O. Schmidt. If you don't have this book, I recommend it. It's just so easy to read. And you'll get his pain index in the back. That's not the index. I failed you. Anyway, great book to check out, but he only did bees, wasps, and ants. So in that light, we'll start off with invertebrates, and we'll start off with wasps. And so I made a little list here, and I'm not going to go off the numbers that we gave these animals, the rankings, because while that's useful, one, I thought it'd be more interesting just to go off my notes about how I was feeling, what I was feeling during this. I'll have a little bit about Adam, but I'll let him cover that more when he does the video. But also, the pain index probably gets more accurate, or at least our ability to add new animals to the pain index gets more accurate over time. Meaning that in season 1, we didn't have a real basis for comparison. We get stung by something and be like, well, that's probably, I would give that a 6. But then over time, we have so many more animals to compare it to, it gets more accurate, but we can't go back and change those original numbers. Not that they're way off, but they're not perfect. And I just think this will be more interesting to hear it just from me, from my side of the story, and what we went through. So we'll start off with wasp. Something that Justin Schmidt did a lot of, including probably one of the most famous was the tarantula hawk. And a tarantula hawk is a wasp that it's a parasitoid wasp, and it looks for tarantulas, stings them, paralyzes them, then either digs a burrow or finds the tarantula's burrow, pulls down the tarantula and lays an egg on it. The egg hatches, the larva goes into the tarantula and eats it while it's still alive and paralyzed. I believe eating around the most vital organs so it can eat longer before the tarantula actually dies, which is just but freaking cool. Like, I love these things now. So we did a tarantula, season 1. We did a tarantula hawk in Mexico. That's the one where I jump out of my seat. I guess there's a lot of those actually, but it's a sharp, fast pain. It's very painful. It's very painful. It's very fast, and that's why it gets such a big reaction, because it just hits so hard. They're probably the most fun sting we do because it hits really hard, and then the pain goes away. Like, I'm not exaggerating, seconds to a minute, maybe a little bit longer, just depending on the circumstances. But because it goes away so fast, your body has dumped so many endorphins that when the pain goes away, you still have all these endorphins and you actually get a little pleasant feeling off of it. I might start, making a brand of Tarantula Hawk energy drinks or something. But the pain goes away really fast. And then I think I had some lymph gland pain in my elbow. Nothing severe, but if you touched it, it hurt. We also did season 1, the velvet ant, and we did the velvet ant in South Africa. Velvet ants are actually a wasp. The females of velvet ants, they're also parasitoid wasps. They crawl around looking, I think, usually to lay on maybe other wasp, like the tarantula hawk lays on tarantulas. I think velvet ants usually go for other wasps, but I'm sure it's very diverse. And they have more defenses than any other insect, according to Justin Schmidt. But one of the things they have is a very powerful sting, and that hurts instantly. It's very similar to the tarantula hawk. You get that instant pain. You jump up. I remember Adam being really impressed with it, because I've been stung by one in South Africa before on my neck. I was watching TV when I lived at Anton's place, the place where we filmed and the place where we take people on safaris now. I was watching TV and I felt something on my neck and I grabbed it, and it was a tarantula hawk, and it didn't hurt. It hurt, but it didn't hurt that bad. But believe it or not, your neck is not a sensitive place, and that could have been one of the factors. The other thing is I just took it off real quick, so it didn't have a long time to sting. Velvet ant really hurt, but then the pain went away. Also, which you may not see, there's some of this in the bonus episode, some of this nowhere else. He got stung by a paper wasp that didn't air in South Africa. Standard wasp sting, hurt, went away, no big deal. In Bolivia, we also did a tarantula hawk that only made the bonus episode. It was very similar to the tarantula hawk in Mexico. Instant pain, went away. And then we also did a giant wasp that we thought at first was a tarantula hawk, big giant black wasp. As we looked more into it, it probably is a parasitoid of beetles. But to be honest, it felt exactly the same. So that was all the wasps, I think, in season 1. We did do a bee to start out. This bee, damn this bee. This bee, season 1, we wanted to just do a practice sting, maybe give us a little baseline. So we shot in Bolivia, I think, first, and we got a bee, and we set up all the cameras and everything, just like we were doing, a sting for Kings of Pain, and we just wanted to have something to. Excuse me, I'm sniffing a lot. I'm just getting over a cold. We want to have something to compare to, practice with. So after we let a few bees go by accident, we finally got a bee and some tweezers, and I think I went first. And I've been stung by bees a lot. I think most of you have been stung by bees, and they hurt, but they're not that bad. This damn bee, I don't know what it was on. It was like on steroids and crack, because this bee hurt so bad. Like, I swear it hurt about as bad as the bullet ant. Not for very long, but I was so confused. I just thought something was wrong. So Adam, he did his sting too. And then afterwards, I'm like, I'm not gonna lie, man, that bee really hurt. And he goes, I was thinking the same thing, but I was embarrassed to say it. Like, that was 10 times worse than any bee sting I've ever had. I don't know. It was a honeybee. I had no explanation. Maybe just because we were nervous and we were holding the thing. I have no idea why it hurt so bad. I've been stung by bees since that didn't hurt nearly that bad. In fact, I think on the last day of season 1, I was doing an interview, happy that all of my bites and stings were over, and this damn bee comes and lands on me and stings me. I was so pissed off. but it didn't hurt like that one in Bolivia. I have no explanation, but all we could think was, what have we got ourselves into if a bee hurts that bad? All right, so that was season 1. Season 2, the only wasp that we did was a Sackens velvet ant. And that velvet ant blew away the velvet ant we did in South Africa. It was way more potent. But in typical velvet ant fashion, the pain went away quickly. I've been stung now by velvet ants, a couple in California, Arizona, a couple in Africa. This Sackens velvet ant, it takes the cake. It was impressive. And having been stung by so many insects at that point, I wasn't expecting how much that would hurt. So hats off to the Sackens velvet ant. It was way worse. But the totality, easily by far, season 1, as far as wasps go, season 1 was way worse. Like not even close. Because we had, 1, 2, 3, 4 or 5 wasps and a couple bees got me, compared to 1 wasp in season 2. Also, if you notice, I can't say wasps. I can't say the plural of wasp. And it was an ongoing joke during production. And I had to reshoot quite a few scenes because I can't say wasps. Waspices. Whatever. All right, let's move on to ants. Season 1, we did the bullet ant. Famous ant, we had to do it. I was very excited to do the bullet ant. A little bit scared. And it hurt. It really hurt. It was kind of like a piss you off kind of hurt. But it wasn't near, I've never been shot, so I don't know. I've been hit with shrapnel, and that was way worse than the bullet ant. I'll tell you that right now. It's not the shrapnel ant. It hurt really bad for quite a few minutes, and it ached just bad enough to keep you awake for about 8 hours. But thankfully we did that early in the day, so we didn't really lose any sleep from it. Bottom line up front, the bullet ant really hurts, but it wasn't what we thought it was going to be. That being said, I've talked to people that said that they've been stung on many occasions by bullet ants. Sometimes it hurts way worse than others. That could be the animal, but also where it stings you. I can't remember if they said an area with muscle hurts more or less, but it seems like the amount of muscle in that area may be a factor. In season 1, we also did some harvester ants, and I think the species was Tinea spinus was our best. Very difficult to ID ants. You got to have people help you out with it. This is Tinea spinus, I believe. I don't know the common name if it has one. That's when we stuck our hand in multiple ants. So it's kind of an unfair comparison to the bullet ant, but we'll get into that later. But we wanted to do multiple ant stings just because they live in a colony and we thought it'd be very interesting. It was. Those hurt for about 3 to 4 hours. Really bad pain, but not excruciating. It was up there. But I'll tell you what, that hurt for 3 or 4 hours, but maybe an hour and a half post sting, because we had to do some interviews after the sting and stuff. We were eating tacos that were catered to us. This is in Mexico. And I remember enjoying the tacos. So it wasn't like a day ruiner. It was painful, but not a day ruiner. Next day, we were fine. Moving on to season 2, we first we did the fire ants. Fire ants actually are invasive in California. They're more well known in Florida and Texas, which is where I knew them from, but they are in California now in smaller populations. And so we got some red imported fire ants that were local to California. Now we do have a native fire ant here as well that doesn't typically give you those pustules that you get with the imported fire ants. So we gathered some, sent them off to some people for ID because we want to make sure we didn't get the native ones. And we did the sting. I was very uncomfortable and probably screaming and yelling a little bit, not because it was hurting so bad, just because I hate the sensation of ants all over my skin. It's just not my thing. And then when it didn't hurt that bad, I was just like embarrassed. I'm like, well, I made a big deal out of nothing, but it was what it was. But we didn't get the pustules from these. And I've been stung by fire ants in Florida before, and I've been stung again since this in Florida. and I get those pustules, but we didn't with these. So either this population just doesn't do that, which is possible, or they're misidentified, which I don't think so because we have multiple people check them out. I want to redo this. I want us to do it at the nest, put our hands in the nest, do it the right way. The only reason we didn't this time was logistics. Then we moved on to the California harvester ants. Now, the California harvester ant is different from the ones we did in Mexico in the main way that it stingatomizes. Just like a bee, it stings you, it can leave its stinger in. And so with the ones in Mexico, they don't do that. So they can sting multiple times, but once you get them off you, the stinging is done. With these California harvester ants, we wiped them off of us, and then when you look closely, there's just hundreds of little stingers, dozens, hundreds, I don't know, a lot of stingers left in us, and we have to start rubbing all those off. And it's possible that when you're rubbing them off, you're squeezing more venom out of the little venom sacs into your arm. My strategy was just wipe them off as quickly as possible, although I could be squeezing that venom in. Dr. Ben helped Adam out, and he was using just the soft tissue or something, or some gauze, and that probably didn't squeeze the venom out of it, but it took longer, so I don't know which was better. At the end of the day, I don't think it mattered because our symptoms were the same. What was way different this time, though, instead of hurting for 3 or 4 hours like the ones in Mexico, these hurt for 12 hours straight. Look at my notes here. Far more painful as well than the ones in Mexico. Excuse me. We felt real sick, nausea, didn't throw up, but felt like it. Our hands swelled up for days. You could still use the hand, but it was puffy and it was really swollen. We got these weird gel sweats and goosebumps, which actually, our hair is actually standing up is what it was. Which, according to Schmidt's book, does happen with harvester ants sometimes. It didn't happen with the ones in Mexico, but it's kind of unique to harvester ant stings. I had lymph node pain for about 2 hours, and that went away quickly, which was kind of weird. Yeah, we had to deal with that for days, the swollen hand. So this is kind of like the season 2 thing of where we're starting to get more symptoms that last into the night and into the next day, or in this case, several days. And that would sort of be the curse of season 2. So clearly, season 2 gets it with the ants. All right, we'll do 2 or 3 more categories, then call it for the day. We're going to centipedes, not my favorite. Although these experiences, I've maybe appreciated more. I pick them up sometimes now, but not the big ones, not yet, not after what we went through. Season 1 in Bali, Indonesia, we did a giant Asian centipede. I think the genus was Ethmostigmus, maybe? It's been a while. I had never been bitten by a centipede before, didn't know what to expect, but 100% underestimated it. It was incredibly painful. The pain hit within seconds and then just increased and increased and increased. And very quickly, we realized this was not what we thought it was going to be. We thought it was going to be like a 5-minute, really hurts kind of thing. While we have had things rate higher than this for sure. But in my mind, when I think about the worst bites and stings, this one always comes up, big time. It was unexpected, it was brutal, and it's still in the top couple worst experiences of my life. 12 hours of straight hell. Our entire arms hurt so insanely bad. I didn't know. I think at that time it was the worst pain I'd ever felt from anything. It was really bad, and I was throwing up, just sick. I think the doc gave me an IV because he's worried about me. I remember calling my wife, and she said I was just completely pale on the phone, and it's the only time I thought, man, I don't know if this is worth it, because we were psyched about Kings of Pain. We were psyched to be doing this, and I was like, if it's like this all the time, I don't know. Thankfully, that was toward the end of the season, so we knew like not everything was gonna be like that. Um, yeah, just sickness and overwhelming pain like I'd never felt before. So I'm like going back there right now. It was insane. Crazy thing is, next day, per the usual season one, was fine. It was really sore at the bite site, but was fine the next day. Almost insulted by how fine we were the next day. Nothing going on. Adam, very similar experience to mine. So then we go into season two. Adam decides we got to do 2 centipedes because he's a jerk. First, we started off with Scolopendra polymorpha, which is just a really pretty centipede that comes in a lot of colors. I think we call it the tiger centipede in season 2. It has a lot of common names. Technically, it is a giant centipede because it's in the genus Scolopendra, which I think qualifies. I'm not an invert guy, but they don't get as big as a lot of the other ones. But I have seen a few in certain populations that seem bigger. Like out here in like Riverside County, I've seen some really big ones, bigger than the ones we have. But we got the biggest. We got normal size ones. The ones I see around LA are just typically smaller. I don't know if that's just me or if that's a thing. It bit us, not bad. 15 minutes of pain and then itched. Kind of like we expected season 1 one to be. Then we move on to Scolopendra heros, which is the giant desert centipede. A little bit of a misnomer. It's not just in deserts. I mean, it goes all the way out to I think Arkansas, definitely eastern Oklahoma. I think Arkansas as well, Texas. A very big centipede that will be in several different colors, like in Oklahoma, Texas, and stuff. It has a red head and like I think a black body, and then Arizona and some other places, there's a couple other color forms. I was pretty scared because after what happened with season 1, I was like, I'm not ready to do another 12 hours of just living hell. But Adam said, shut up and do it. So I did. It was painful. It was really painful. I have written down those 3 hours of really bad pain, not quite on the level of the centipede in Bali though. And then the pain receded after 3 hours, but it's still painful for about 8 hours total. Adam, on the other hand, was just in agony. I mean, he was in complete agony. He said it was way worse than the centipede in Bali, which I don't understand how that's possible. I can't wait to hear his side of the story for this, but I remember talking to him and he was texting me and he's like, man, this is bad. He's like, he was probably close to going to the ER. He had to have been. So on this one, for me, season 1 for sure was worse, but for Adam, season 2. So I guess we just call that a tie. Centipedes. But we get my revenge, although I think I started this whole thing, with spiders. And you know, Adam really doesn't have like a phobia of tarantulas and stuff, but he's not a fan. I think what he was more worried about was picking them up when you have no idea what to do. And he's looking at me like I know what to do. I don't know tarantulas at all. After season 1, I got a little bit interested in them. I had like a native pet one. But that doesn't mean I know anything about them. So I think he thought I was going to help him out with this, and it wasn't much help. But I did have Adam come over in season 2 before we did the tarantulas, and he held the native species just to get over a little bit of fear so he could do the job properly. And when it came down to doing the job, he did an insanely good job. So season 1, we only had one spider. It was a tarantula. It was in Bolivia. And I remember being a little freaked out because I had never done any type of tarantula bite. Didn't know what to expect. Just had no basis for comparison on that. We did. I think I was bitten first. I can't remember. No, Adam was bitten first, and you know the tarantula bites and then it just kind of walks with its fangs and kind of just pulls skin, like just stretching it. They're really strong, and I don't know who screamed louder, me or Adam, just because it was such a freaky sight, and And it's just tarantulas aren't in our wheelhouse. For me, it hurt for, I think, like 15 minutes or so. It wasn't that bad. It was painful. It was a moderate pain, but it wasn't a big deal at all. That bee in Bolivia hurt way worse. But Adam had a weird problem where the next couple of days, I think it may have taken a couple of days to kick in. He had some type of response that his arm basically felt like it was broken. Anytime he moved it, he was in extreme pain. And if you grabbed Adam's arm and held it and then felt while he moved the arm, it felt like the tendons or something must have been swollen. I don't know. But it felt like if you had two pieces of rubber or styrofoam that were trying to move against each other and it's like sticky. And when you felt it, it felt like it just gave you that nail on chalkboard kind of feeling. It was really gross. And he was worried because and it was super red. We didn't know what was going on with him. Thankfully, it went away. But this is an example of where season 1 had an animal that affected us, or at least Adam, after day 1, which was rare in season 1. Then we go to season 2. This is where it gets interesting. We did do a Brazilian black and white tarantula. Very similar symptoms to the one we did in Bolivia, minus Adam's problems with his arm. I think 5 minutes of moderate pain, no big deal. We try to do exposure to the urticating hairs, the little hairs that they throw. Those can be very irritating. And I think we use like a paintbrush to gather some and put them on our arm. We let it throw a few on us, it flicks them as defense. We didn't have a reaction, so that part didn't air. Then we move on to the OBT. And the OBT is very famous, probably in the invertebrate community, the invert community. Orange baboon tarantula from Africa, otherwise known as the orange bitey thing, because of its reputation for being super defensive and just ready to defend itself like insanely. It's like the Jackie Chan of tarantulas. And I would say, as far as what people consider a bad bite from tarantula, it's up near the top, probably after things like Indian ornamentals and things like that. So Adam's freaked, which is awesome. But he's freaked, and he was worried about the bite, but he's also worried about just grabbing the thing. What if this thing goes flying away and like runs off in the desert and dies, or goes up to a crew member, or just bites Adam twice? Who knows? So I've never seen him freak out about anything. But the funny thing is, on the day that he has to grab the thing to get it to bite me, he just picks it up like a champ, like he'd done it a million times. I still have that tarantula in the other room. I don't pick it up. Hell no. But Adam just grabbed it like he'd done it a million times. It was pretty impressive, actually, for someone who is not into tarantulas at all. Let's see here. So anyway, that sucker. Oh, and then before we get bitten, we have a Zoom call, or we have a video call with a guy who was bitten by an OBT, I think in Scotland. If you're watching, man, thanks for coming on, and thanks for scaring the crap out of us. But he had a severe reaction to where he had muscle cramps for months. And so like that freaked us the hell out, because we don't know, like, okay, maybe Kings of Pain season 2's done and we're still having muscle cramps. Like that would suck. But as it turned out, we had instant searing pain after the bite. Let's see. I want to give you the right info, so I'm gonna check my notes. Oh yeah, it would be like a pain from like a 4 to like a 7, and then would jump up to a 9, and then we go back to like a 4 to a 7, and then jump up to a 9. It did that for 4 hours. And what was tough about it, it wasn't just where the bite was, but mine was from my knuckles all the way up into my armpit. So it felt like this entire area was just surging with pain all the way from like a 4 to a 9. It felt like your entire arm was getting bitten or on fire. Definitely, I've noticed when a larger area is affected, that really amplifies how bad the experience is. Compared to if it's in a small area, it's easier to deal with. So I went on for 4 hours, and then for another 3 hours, it really ached. Adam, I don't remember, but it's something similar. I'll have to see what he says in his video. My grip in that hand, that the arm that I got bitten in, was very weak, sensitive to the touch. No redness or swelling for me to speak of, but for 2 days after the bite, had severe weakness and some muscle soreness. I remember just being incredibly weak. To like just getting up to go to the bathroom or something was difficult. Just I've never experienced muscle weakness before or since from any animal as much as the OBT. Then we started having, a couple days in or more, we started having muscle cramps. It was a very delayed reaction. I had some in the middle of the night, my Charlie horses and my calves, middle of the night, just waking up screaming like, no, 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 no. And I was a literal pillow biter, just in agony, trying not to scream and wake up the neighbors. Adam and I were afraid to yawn, sneeze, anything like that, because that would typically result in jaw muscles or stomach muscles or something cramping up. Adam had terrible cramps in his back muscles. So big muscles like that just can be really painful when they cramp up. And so that went on for a few days, and then we recovered from it. But there's another example of season 2, days of problems after the bite or sting. So we weren't getting any rest. These symptoms went on into other episodes, which was insane. And then we also did Brown Widow. And we were going to do a black and a brown widow, but we had enough stuff work out. Season 2, we didn't do the Black Widow. We want to leave that for if there's a season 3. Sorry, Adam. Sorry, me. Dr. Ben Abel's been bitten by a Black Widow, and he said it was just unreal spasms in his stomach and everything. Like, he checked himself into the ER. When the doctor goes to the ER, it's probably pretty serious. But what we had was instant redness. We didn't know if we're going to get basically nothing with this Brown Widow, or if we were going to get symptoms similar to what you expect with the Black Widow, with full-on systemic symptoms, just agony. And the Brown Widow has a reputation of maybe not being as potent, or actually more likely not delivering as much venom. So we want to kind of check out that, see if that's a myth or true. And we kind of answered that it's less likely, because we let these Brown Widows bite us for an unnatural amount of time. And while we did have some pretty crazy symptoms, we didn't get the systemic stuff you expect with the Black Widow. And so we had goosebumps, redness, and a raised bite on the arm. But what was interesting about it, the pain level, I want to say, was roughly a 6. I can't remember now. But it lasted like that for the full day. Like, no pulsing, nothing. It was just constant pain. And I was able to go to sleep. Woke up the next morning, and the instant I woke up, the pain was back, but it was more like at a 4. But it was constant the entire second day. And then I was able to go to sleep the next night, woke up again, and the pain was still about a 2. It was still very noticeable, and it was constant for the full day. And while it wasn't excruciating, we have never had a pain from a venom that lasted beyond day 1, unless it was cramps, swelling, skin problems, things like that, like Adam's reaction where his arm felt broken. But we never had just a venom pain that lasted into the next day. The Brown Widow's the only one. So that was very interesting. Man, I'll tell you what, this Brown Widow kicked my butt. I spent most of the day either laying on the couch or laying in bed. Part of it is the pain, but it's all local pain. It's all in my arm. But I just have a general feeling of, I feel like poop. I just feel tired. Look at my arm. Here, look at it here. Look at that. Goodness, it's disgusting. And it hurts about as bad as it looks. And so much for me being old rhino skin that has skin that doesn't react. And I reacted. It's just brutal. The two hardest things about it is, one, the pain does not go away. It's just constant. And then on top of that, I feel tired. I drug myself out of bed just to make this video. I'm gonna go back and lay down. The only thing that makes me feel any better is laying down and watching TV. Maybe I should watch a Kings of Pain. No, that'd probably just make it worse. And so, hands down, season 2 for the spiders. Never want to do that again. I think we have one more category, the scorpions. All right, this will be the last one for today. Season 1, we did 2 scorpions. We did the, what we call it the bark scorpion. It's also called the tree creeper, the docile tree scorpion. That's the problem with common names. But it's a relatively large scorpion, lives in South Africa. Matter of fact, when we took people to Africa recently, we did some black lighting at night to look for scorpions, and these were, as the name suggests, mostly in trees, in little hollows in the trees, and you just see their little pinchers sticking out, and it's pretty cool. And we had a lot of fun, going around looking for them. And we got stung by it, and long story short, not bad. Hurt a little bit, hurt for a few minutes, no big deal, no lasting symptoms. Then we moved on to Europlectes, which is, I think it's called the painted lesser thick-tailed scorpion, also at Anton's property. And we noticed those would also like to get off the ground some, but they'd be in little shrubs and stuff lower to the ground. Having a black light makes it so easy to find these things. And we got stung by that, and Adam got stung first, and he was like pretty shocked how much this tiny little scorpion could hurt. And it hurt for several minutes. It was very intense pain. And so I'm up next, and Adam's like, "This is gonna hurt." I'm like, "Shut up." And none of these scorpions, these little things, could get through my skin. Like, they would try, and a little stinger would be like messing around, but none of it penetrated my skin. So after like 2 hours of trying different individuals, none of them worked. It's very frustrating because like you're waiting for pain for that long. It's exhausting. We ended up having to delay my part of the shoot to the end of the whole trip. So I had days and days to think about this scorpion before I actually got stung. You don't see that in the episode because it would just take too much time to explain. But that was just the waiting for that was kind of awful. But when we got stung by it, yeah, it really hurt. For a small scorpion, like, it's just such a surprise. But again, no problems the next day. Moving on to season 2. What you won't see is the striped bark scorpion. We did get stung by it because it's the most common scorpion probably in the U.S. that gets encountered. And it's a relative of the Arizona bark scorpion, which is probably the most toxic scorpion in the United States. The striped bark scorpion hurt for all of 5 minutes, moderate pain. We had 2 other scorpions to do for that episode, and because it's underwhelming, and because we had other scorpions to do, that didn't even make the cut. We went several hours with no symptoms after the striped bark scorpion. We did it early in the morning. So Dr. Ben Abel said, "You know what? If you guys want to go ahead and do the Arizona bark scorpion, you're good to go." So we went right into the Arizona bark scorpion that evening. And that was a good sting. It only stung really fast, sting out. And in that amount of time, it was able to give us enough venom that it's a good strong sting, and it spread across the arm. So it was a wider area, which sucks. 3 hours of pretty good pain. I just remember it being like a burning kind of pain. I had some minor muscle spasms. But the most uncomfortable part of that for me was for 8 hours after the sting, in areas that did or did not hurt. If you touched your skin at all, it was extremely sensitive. The only way I could picture it is like if you had like a burn across your entire skin, it was like touching a burn. And I don't mean a sunburn, I mean like a real burn. It was a really awful feeling. But luckily, nothing the next day. It was still sensitive the next day, actually, but not like it was for that first 8 hours. But we had started off with the Desert Hairy Scorpion, and we actually started season 2 with this scorpion because we wanted to start off with the scorpion episode because we want to do all 3 animals where we have the biggest scorpion in the States, the most toxic scorpion in the States, and the striped, and then the most common scorpion in the States, the striped bark scorpion, which didn't make the cut. But I had been stung, actually on purpose for, I think, YouTube, by a Desert Hairy Scorpion before, and it was like a bad bee sting. It wasn't bad at all. And I have another video on this. But Adam got stung first, and if you want the full thing, you can go back through my videos and watch the full report. Basically, Adam's jaw started shaking. I got stung. The pain locally was insane. It was really intense, but it was very small. I mean, it felt like it got started at 2 and got turned up to like a 9, but the area that hurt was like tiny. It was just a little area of my finger. It was such a tiny little area, but it felt like my finger had been cut off. Insanely painful, but easy to deal with because it's such a small area. But Adam's jaw was shuddering and like it's so weird, and eventually like our lips were tingling, and then each individual tooth was tingling like separately, to where I'm like, oh, there's my bicuspid. So weird. And then the bottom of our hands and feet and the tops of our head were also tingling. I mean, like the crazy, if you ever sit on your foot too long and it just goes to sleep, it was like that. The craziest I've ever felt it, like it was plugged into a charger. It was just alive. And that went on for 11 hours. And I remember just laying in bed, just like, when is this going to go away? I felt like someone had injected Red Bull into my veins. This was supposed to be the easy one. I told Adam, don't even sweat this one, buddy. This is easy day of season 2. I think he still hates me for that. Then the spasms. Oh, and I got scorpion squirts. I got diarrhea, like bad. Maybe 30 minutes after the sting, 45 minutes after the sting. Was it the scorpion? I don't know, but it's a hell of a coincidence, right? So there was that whole ordeal. But also we started having spasms in our hands. Both of us had them, to where like one finger would just go boop and just lock in place. And then a couple days later, the other finger, like it was taking turns, like messing with different fingers. But that, for me, that was 16 days straight. Every day I had hand spasms. The weird thing is, this area of my hand is really like not functioning properly from the snake bite. And what used to happen a lot would be if I did certain things in my hand, it would just kind of like seize up and I had to shake it to get rid of like the little mini spasm. And it was quite distracting. After those spasms for 16 days, which were happening like crazy, I haven't had a problem since. I don't know if it strengthened the muscle or the neural pathways, but somehow it just fixed that, which is insane. So, which was worse, season 1, season 2 for scorpions? Clearly season 2. I hope you enjoyed. I know these are long videos, but I wanted to like really get into the stories. If there's anything, I'm going to do all the animals, so don't worry about that. But if there's anything about the animals I did talk about that, is there anything I'm missing with the animals I did talk about, or like little questions you had, put in the comments so when I do the other animals, I can make them even better. Thanks for watching. And then, and I'll probably just say at the end of every video, we are planning a lot of Africa trips coming up. Slide us a DM if you want to go. We got a pretty sick itinerary. The price is pretty competitive compared to other tours. And honestly, we love to hang out with you. Like, if it wasn't for fans season 1, you guys, we wouldn't have had a season 2. So we'd like to hang out with the people that made our life better. So, and we'd like to make your life better. Africa's an adventure. We love to do that with you. Like, we got so many freaking cool animals, and we'll probably only get better at it because Adam and I keep going back. So we'll probably know where like different animals maybe hang out. Who knows? We can make this really good.